Tuperas y tuperas, today on Duke by the River, we are back. After recording last night, we're back here tonight, and of course, we're looking at our Philadelphia Union heading into the 2022 season, and believe it or not, we actually have a match to preview. We're going to preview the Minnesota United match. Hopefully, it's a big dub to start off the season, and don't you dare go anywhere, guys, because you do not want to miss this episode of Duke by the River. Let's get this started, guys. Hey, dale! And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Duke by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. Of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Duke by the River, real quick, guys, if you are watching this live, thank you so much for tuning on in. It truly means the world to us. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe. We always broadcast these live Duke by the Rivers on Ed Barcelona Philly's YouTube channel, so don't ever miss out on any of these episodes. And if you want to listen to this, you're more than welcome to. We are always on PSN Radio, and you can find that wherever you stream pods from Apple, Google, and Spotify, and all of your favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts are on there as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you my experts in duping. We got the full squad here tonight, back-to-back nights. This is like the NBA or NHL season here, guys, or MLB. So let's start off with my man, Justin, Don Allocation Money. Justin, what is going on? And I have to ask you. All right, so Saturday, there's a possibility it could be really chilly. Opening days at the Soup could be like this. What is the apparel for Mr. Don Allocation Money?
You know, if y'all saw me,
orange
playoff run, it might be a little bright. It might be a little bright. Is what I got to say. I got the neon long sleeves. I got neon yellow. I got the neon orange. I don't know. It's you know, whatever sparks my fancy. You know, as Marie Kondo would say, whatever brings me joy. Whatever I look at brings me joy. It's who knows? Who knows? Well, Saturday, I'd say it's the day of. I like to kind of, you know, feel the vibes.
Yeah, it's always about the vibes, man. Always about those vibes. So if you guys are heading to the match, if you see a bright orange hat in the tree, that is Justin Don Allocation Money. Please make sure to go up and say hello. I promise you, he does not bite unless you are a Red Bull fan. So go say hello to Justin. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we got our man Zach Labasso with the nice little Roma kit. Zach, so tomorrow, I have the annual Media Mayhem. Now, dude, you are quite the FIFA player. Any tips for someone who hasn't played in a year, my man? What's going on?
Use PSG would be the one tip that I would give you. If you look up a quick tutorial about how to do a move called the ball roll scoop turn, you'll be set. Set. That's all you need. All right, and then the rest will come naturally because you know it's as close to soccer as you're gonna get. The game's not very good, but you know it is what it is. So yeah, ball roll scoop tutorials. Use PSG, and that's about it. Kick the ball through it, Mbappe. Yeah.
I think it'll be good as long as I don't play Adam or Jonathan. I should be okay because those guys.
I don't think Jonathan's going to be there. Apparently,
what?
That's what Matt Ralph informed us of. Breaking news.
Dude, he's like a 3-time champ, man.
I know. I heard.
He's tough, man. He beat
me. That's a huge. A vacuum in.
I think Zach, the other Zach on Sporting Serotonin, he won the when they opened the esports thing. He's going to be there, so he'll probably be the competition.
My first year doing it, I was a Cinderella story, made it all the way to the semis, and I lost to Jonathan. So I know how good of a player he could definitely be for sure. And of course, last but not least, rocking the Bayou kid, not the For You, the Bayou, Mr. Tim Lovinguth. Tim, I was scrolling through Twitter, and you know what? I love to live vicariously through the USMNT fans.
Oh no!
And there's
that's a mistake, Johnny.
Don't do that.
Do you see what's going on with my national team?
Yeah,
toxic, man.
Are you concerned? Are you concerned with all these injuries that are piling up for your USMNT?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not great. It's not great.
I saw Weston in the cast, man. That's not
Weston's
good at all.
out 8 to 12,
Yep.
8 to 12 weeks or months.
Yeah, he's not missed. No, 8 to 12 weeks. 8 to 12
Okay.
Yeah,
weeks.
it's just a broken foot. It's not.
Okay, I didn't look. I just saw he was out, and I saw the cast, and I didn't want to look, to be honest.
Y'all see Joe
so-
Tanzi's tweet?
Out for qualifiers.
I mean,
Oh
well,
boy.
we don't have to. Yeah, I mean, Weston's going to be out for like the most crucial games of the year, which sucks because he's been like the one consistently
best
good
player.
midfielder for the team. And yeah, Justin just alluded to Joe Tanzi's tweet about Josie Altidore, and I thought I made myself look foolish talking about Josie last night.
It might not.
so I don't know,
Listen. With the way the striker course been going, at that point, if he's healthy, it seems crazy, but it might be your option. If one else-
be, man.
If no one else,
would
is
have to be so
producing-
down bad for that to be an option. Like,
yeah.
All right, so for
you got
those,
you got P folks scoring like 15 goals in 19 games.
Give me Brian White before Josie Altidore.
so for those
Give
who
me
haven't
Kane
seen,
Cowell before Josie Altidore.
so for those who haven't seen the tweet, if you're watching live, it is right up here. Great. Obviously, we love Joe. Does a great job covering the Union. This was his tweet. I have one hot MLS preseason take. I'm ready to unleash into the Twitterverse. Close my computer, and I'm sure he did, and see my mentions on fire when I get back from dinner. Josie Altidore scores double-digit goals for the New England Revolution, and he makes a serious case to be on the U.S. Men's National Team World Cup squad, ladies and gentlemen. So that is from Mr. Tanzi, man.
Half possible, half should never ever happen. I could definitely see Josie scoring 10 plus, but no shot, my man goes into the World Cup.
I mean, I think the name of the game, we talked about it yesterday, was we know his talent. It's just staying healthy, really, for him.
Yeah.
He's going to get his opportunities with New England for sure. AK Gaming, you missed literally the whole MLS show. We previewed the entire MLS, the Eastern, the Western Conference. I think Tim was the highest on your Chicago Fire.
We talked about Chicago for a good 5 minutes yesterday. You missed it, man.
Oh, Zach was raving about Chicago.
I was reading about Shaqiri and everyone besides Casper.
He was even excited for Soldier Field, man. That's how excited he was. But yeah, no worries, AK Gaming. We appreciate you joining on here today. We appreciate everyone checking out Dupe by the River. What's up? We got Dupesburg in the building. We got Dupers out in Pittsburgh. Big Dupes on a Wednesday. Looking forward to the rebrand. Hey, that is right, guys. Don't miss it on Friday. Make sure you guys head to Twitter and Instagram. We will unveil our brand new look. I know everyone is loving Justin's face right now. It is very beautiful to look at. But we got a new sexy logo as well. This is going to trump anything that Columbus or Montreal or Chicago has done. Did you predict Fire to the playoffs too?
I did. I said they were the 7th seed.
I had them just missing out.
I think so
And
too. No,
I have
I think-
them
I think I said
ninth,
seven
think.
through 10 is going to be tight,
Yeah.
and I think if Chicago can somehow manage a defense, and I say that
right.
because I haven't seen anything that proves they've really. I think they might just miss out, but
Yeah.
Columbus is still kind of an unknown quantity at this point right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. All right, well, gentlemen, let's get to our club here in Philadelphia as we head into our 2022 season. And there's no secret here. There's a lot of excitement surrounding this team. I think this is the most excitement we have seen in a long time, and I know we've been winning over the past couple of years. But when you look at how the last season ended, and of course, this Union were the second seed in the playoffs. They were 14, 8, and 12. That's good enough for 54 points. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Exciting games against the Red Bull and against Nashville. And obviously, that season will always be remembered how COVID ended our season. And now this year, it's all about – it kind of feels like a redemption tour for the Union. They got shat on in the Eastern Conference Finals due to COVID. And now it's time to show people that was no fluke. They are that good. And obviously, we know they parted ways with Casper. They parted ways with Jamiro. Anthony Fontana is gone as well. In comes Julian Carranza, Mikel Ore. Anton Sorensen, I guess you can add on as a signee as well. He's a homegrown, so he really was here already, but added on to the senior squad. We know the emphasis. It was adding on to the forward position, adding on to those strikers, and we will see if that will pay off in the long run. Now, look, everyone is high on this team. I mean, everyone who watched yesterday, all four of us had them either in second or first place in the Eastern Conference. So everyone feels it. Everyone's feeling this hype for the Philadelphia Union. Now, what I want to start off asking you guys, you know what? I'll start off here because I feel like no one is going to mention this. What I want to ask you guys is, what do you think is going to be the difference for this team to get to where we want them to go, and that is the MLS Cup? And I think that no one's going to mention this, but I think the homegrowns, Quinn, Paxton, Jack, and I'll even throw Nathan in there as well, are going to be so important. I don't know what's going to happen to Kai Wagner and Jose Brujo Martinez in the summer. They could get sold. They could stay here. But regardless, even with Open Cup time, those kids are going to see some very, very valuable, crucial moments. They may play some important, crucial soccer as well going forward as well. So I'm going to start off by saying, to me, homegrown are going to be important for what we're going to do here. Justin, Mr. Don allocation money for you, my man. What is like the important? What is the important piece this season for us to get to the MLS Cup, my man?
I think it's pure and simple. The strikers. I think you look at this roster up and down, and not much has changed, at least in terms of the defense and the midfield spine. And again, there's that the Union had a top 5 defense in the MLS last year for a very good reason. And you've brought back that consistency. You signed, Jack and Yaga to multi-year deals. You still have Kai, for however long. You still have Olivier. You still have El Brujo and Ali and Gazdak, who, again, after being we talked about mid-season signing last year. I think the second season is where, like you saw at the end, that last month since September on, he was showing what he could do, and I think he brings that into this season. And I think the home runs will be big, but the difference for the Union last year between that would have propelled them into the MLS Cup final would have been strikers. I think, Casper just was not it. Corey was insanely cold. Sergio was on an insane cold streak. You had no production from your strikers in the playoffs, and that matters. And that can become a problem, especially later in the year, if you can't rely on those strikers. And I think, obviously, however long it takes Ura to get into the country, you hope it's sooner rather than later. From what I've been hearing, they probably started it at least a few weeks prior to everything going on. So they say it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. So you have to imagine the next few weeks he might be here. We don't know. But even with that, Sergio, who's going to get, we'll say maybe getting his green card.
Yeah,
everyone saw him in Chile. But I think, Corey's been reliable when he's needed to. And I think him and Sergio, if they can put up a combined close to 10 goals, I think I'm okay with that, because I hope Carranza gets 10 and I hope Ura gets 15.
Yeah.
And right there, if they hit all those marks, that's more than, I think, almost double your striker total combined last season. And that's obviously the difference between the Union, hoisting the MLS Cup and not hoisting the MLS Cup. Because based on what everyone's saying, everyone predicts the Union to finish around where they did, if not better than last year.
Yeah.
The question is still, where are the goals coming from? And I think it's a fair question to ask. And I think that's why it's the most important, component I'm going to ask myself the entire season.
Absolutely. That's very good points. Raul Loy checking on in here. Hey, Parcero, why isn't our stadium sold out yet? We got robbed by COVID in the final. Nos quedamos con una espenita. And the fans just decided to stop supporting. I mean, look, I'll say this, Raul. I'll be honest. I'm still up in the air for going on Saturday. It's kind of tough.
Freezing. It's going to be 35, I think, is what they're.
That's a tough sell. That's a tough sell at getting fans out there. Look, obviously, the diehards are going to be there. It's just a busy afternoon for me, so we'll see if I go there or not. But it's cold. It's the first match of the season. We have a lot of matches too, but don't worry. I think when you really need to be concerned is when you're talking about playoff matches and you're not selling out the suit. But first match of the season, I'm not really too concerned.
Early in the season, it's a little,
Especially when the season starts in February.
Yeah, especially that it's starting at least a few weeks earlier. Like the first month and a half or so, up through at least April, it's still pretty chilly. So I think you're starting a little earlier. It's going to be even colder than normal.
Yeah, like I don't go to games unless they're in the playoffs or it's warm. Like that's
it's tough, man.
See, AK knows ball. See, this is what I'm talking about. You guys need to have more faith like him.
Doopsburg, how many soccer balls does Henry Kessler put into the
At least one more. At
Man.
least one more.
Don't get me started on Kessler, man. I
I hope Brujo gets a Nigel De Jong to the chest to Henry Kessler. He's one of those players on my shit list.
I want to Don. Give me that. Give me a
I
headbutt.
hope that
man.
he doesn't get the chance to. That like we're winning like 3-0, so Kessler can't punt the ball into the stands or the
No, you know what we should do is when we play New England, like someone like El Brujo should punt it in Gillette Stadium, see how they feel about it.
Oh man.
All right,
We
Raul.
wouldn't be allowed to get upset about it either.
Yeah,
because like they liked it the first time.
Right.
If Mikael Ore was ready to play, it would be a different story, right?
No, it's
so
the weather. I mean, it's an early game, so it wouldn't be bad. I think also whatever tickets may be available, I think it's always not exactly a accurate story, at least because sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, it's only half sold," and then you game day and you see the stadium's 3/4 full. So
yeah, I'm sure the Eagles don't even sell out their opening day, and
And
not beautiful weather too.
Not that it matters, but there's also a Flyers game on Saturday, and you don't get
honestly that should make it. That should make it that more people would go to the Union game.
We'll
get there.
They don't have to.
Still gonna go to the Flyers game. So.
We'll get there, Zach. We'll get there. Zach Freeman, man, anything you wanted to add? Like anything you think that really will make a difference for this Union team to get to the MLS Cup? I'm not saying win, just MLS Cup. I'm just taking it there so far.
Well, Justin touched on Gazdag, and I think that when you look at teams that have performed really well as of late, you have an attacking midfielder that is super dominant. And that's not really the case in other leagues around the world, but the MLS seems to have adopted, like, we're going to keep the 10 alive. Like, that's going to be a position in our league forever. Because you got guys like Blanco and Carlos Gil and Zelarayan and Hani Mukhtar, who the last three that I named have absolutely dominated the game for the last 3 years. Carlos Gil had, like, 20 assists this year with, like, 6 goals. Hani Mukhtar scored 19 goals and had 10 assists. And 2 years ago, Zelarayan, 2 years ago, Zelarayan was a stud for Columbus and they won the cup. Now last year with New York City, Tati was kind of the guy up front and they didn't really have an attacking midfielder that did that. But when you look at the Shield with New England, Carlos Gil, and then MLS Cup, like I said, with Columbus, the attacking mid spot is a very important one. And then also I think Andre Blake just being Andre Blake is important because I still think that as good as our back line is, I think people think that it's better than it is. Because especially the wing backs, like Jack and Glesnes are very good partners at the back, but individually I would rank them probably in the top 10 MLS center backs, but I don't think they get into maybe Elliott gets in the top 5. But the partnership is more important than the individual. And then the outside backs, if it is Bizo, he's really got to cut down on falling asleep on the job because that happened far too many times last year. Kai's got to become a little more disciplined 1v1 defending. And I've been saying, I think Harriel ends up taking Bizo's spot at some point this year.
Ooh, Zach started with the hot takes already?
So yeah, I think Andre being Andre really helps out because when the back line does fall asleep a little bit or has a little bit of a breakdown, he's always there to, do something crazy.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny, Zach brings up Mbiza. We'll get to Minnesota in a minute, but absolutely, I definitely agree. Zach also brings up a good point. And Tim, I want to ask you, see your thoughts on this. Let's say Marco Fabian. Yes, I'm going back to Marco. Marco Fabian came to us, like, let's say 3 years younger. Do you think he'd be in that echelon that Zach mentioned?
I mean, he could have been, but I don't know. It seemed like his work rate with what the Union wanted to do, they weren't on the same page. So I think he would have still maybe scored some goals and started more games, and especially if he didn't have Brendan Aronson, nipping at his heels. But the club obviously wanted to go the way of press, and Brendan Aronson took over. So I mean, maybe, but yeah, I don't know if he would be on the same level as Zelrayan.
And is there anything else you wanted to add on why you think this team will get to the cup?
I mean, so these guys kind of mentioned all the stuff on the field. What I want to mention is actually something off the field, and it's actually the trajectory of this team over the last 5 years. So if you look back it'll be 6 seasons ago this year, but 2017 they didn't make the playoffs. They're a bad team. 2018 they made the playoffs. They didn't win, but they made the U.S. Open Cup final and fell just short. 2019 made the playoffs, won their first playoff game against Red Bull, and lost to Atlanta. 2020 Supporter Shield win. You win your first ever trophy. I know it's a COVID year, but you won a trophy. You crapped out in the playoffs. 2021,
they
come back even stronger. You get to the semifinals of a Champions League. You get to the semifinals of all of MLS and fall one game short of playing for the cup. So the only way that they go is up. So 2022 would mean that they would win the cup. Like this is then the trajectory.
Yeah.
And pretty much in all of those years that I mentioned, Ernst Tanner came in 2018. So this has been his goal, has been to move this team in a linear fashion, just up. Like it's MLS Cup or bust. Like I wrote about it. Like they can't not win the cup this year. If they don't win, it's a failure automatically right off the bat. So that's what I got.
That's very, very, very good points. Something else I want to mention as well, guys, is the continuing improvement and development and growth of Jim Curtin. I mean, we remember the curtain call, curtain out, all those hashtags.
Curtain? Oh yeah,
yep.
That was
I was a part of that for sure. Listen,
Yeah.
I was there, man.
Justin, we talked about Sam Allardyce, so we can't talk.
You guys wanted Big Sam?
We talked about it for like at least one game. I remember.
Oh man, you guys must have been really down bad. You guys.
No, so I was never on the close the curtain. That was at the time when Ernie was leaving, and I said that Ernie was. I said for the longest time that Ernie was shit, and I still firmly believe that. Now, of course,
still take him to Colombia.
I entertained the notion, but it was like, I think we were spitballing random ideas, and Big Sam came up, and I said, "Oh, that'd be fucking funny." I didn't believe a word of it, but I was like, sure, let's let some chaos in here.
Yeah, Big Sam, man, walking the streets of Philly, he'd fit right in, to be honest. He seems like a Philly type of guy.
Well, despite everything we just mentioned, and there is still criticism for Jim, like the whole sub thing, and not giving the homegrowns enough minutes last season. Like there is still gripes with this fan base here, but look, we have one of the top tier managers in the MLS. Like that, there is no secret about that. And I do think something else that's going to be interesting to see as well. Like I think that Pat Noonan's role that he had with this club was more important than we anticipated. And now it's Richter, right? Ryan Richter.
Yeah, Ryan Richter, yeah.
Richter is now the assistant coach, and he's gonna have big shoes to fill, and I think that's gonna be very interesting to see as well. And I'm gonna be excited to watch Jim continuing his growth as a manager. And you guys know me, I want to see Big Jim in Europe, man, and we'll see if this continues helping with that case, man.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Richter because he coached most of the homegrown core that's on the team now, and then even a few that are still to kind of come through. So it'll be interesting to see what his trajectory is. I mean, he even played for the Union, was a draft pick from them. So crazy how that kind of works out. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, hopefully Jim does get his chance in Europe, and maybe Richter is the next guy, or maybe it's someone else. But hey, we got Jim for 2022. He's locked in. He's locked in for that cup.
It's not gonna be Sam Allardyce, that's for sure.
No.
Big Sam.
AK Game and throwing in some Tottenham. What's going on with Tottenham? What's going on with the Spurs?
They lost to Burnley today, 1-0, which is rough for top four. It's really all in Arsenal's hands at this point.
Yeah,
Like
That's assuming they even play well in their games in hand, because for all the shit that my man you keep getting, they're still in fourth place. Like they might not be playing perfectly, but they're doing.
They were bad. They were bad. They were bad today. They were really
but
bad
they got
today.
a draw. They got that crucial goal to keep it even.
Yeah, they were really bad today. I think Arsenal does get top four this year. I think they do.
Interesting.
I trust in the kids. I trust in the kids there a lot, actually. I love their course. Saka, ESR, and Martinelli kind of.
All I'm just saying is Anthony Elanga is
stud.
Coming on strong, and I'm loving it.
He's a stud.
All right, guys. Well, listen, enough talk about predictions and all that off-season stuff. We are in the season, gentlemen. We are finally in the season. It is match week. Of course, our Philadelphians are going to go up against Minnesota United this upcoming Saturday. What great way to kick off the season at home against Minnesota. This should be a really, really fun week here for the Union. So, guys, we had Mark Fangmeyer, who is part of the 55-1 podcast. They cover Minnesota soccer in general, not just Minnesota United. So we talked to Mark late last night, and he gave us his thoughts on Minnesota. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the recording of that podcast. Then after, we will discuss what Mark said, and we'll obviously give you our thoughts on Saturday's match. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Mark Fangmeyer. Duperas, without further ado, now on the Doop by the River guest line. Of course, we have to give you the eye from the other side here. Of course, we're preparing for a Minnesota United matchup here this upcoming Saturday. A nice little 1 o'clock kickoff here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, from the 55.1 podcast, please welcome Mr. Mark Fangmeyer. Mark, what's going on, man? Well, welcome on into Doop by the River. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for hopping on in, man. First off, as we always like to start, just kind of talk about what you do, especially covering Minnesota United. Talk about the podcast as well, man.
Yeah, for sure. We have the 55.1 podcast. So we're, during the MLS season, we're mostly a weekly podcast covering Minnesota United. Off season, we're kind of like a bi-weekly, just when there's stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And then also recently, we're adding on. There is a new USLW club called Minnesota Aurora FC that will be starting this spring, and it's awesome. It's community owned. 3,000 people came together to raise $1 million to start a soccer club, and we'll be covering them as well. It's gonna be awesome.
That is really cool. I'm a little jealous. Obviously, here in Philly, we do not have an NWSL team yet. I've heard great things of Aurora FC. I'm so excited to see what you guys can do, and I'm ready to get my team. I'm ready to have my own Philly NWSL team, man.
It's super exciting. Like our daughter is in kindergarten, so we bought her shares. So she's like, I'm an owner. I own this team. And she's got like the stickers on her like school iPad, like everything. She's super excited, and so it's awesome.
That's the beauty of the game. That's absolutely the beauty of the game. All right, well, Mark, let's get to the Minnesota United here. So last year was definitely tough. I think about 2020. You guys make it to the Western Conference Finals, so tough blow against Seattle. Next year, expectations, right? It's always tough to kind of exceed those expectations. You guys make it to the 5th seed. Unfortunately, you ran into the Western Conference champs in Portland in the first round. You guys got bounced here. I want to start off here, Mark. What is the difference between last year's 5th seeded Western Conference team to now the 2022 version of Minnesota United?
I mean, ideally, it will be the depth that we've added at striker. The biggest issue that Minnesota United had last year was their inability to finish and score and finish goal scoring opportunities. Emmanuel Reynoso is a fantastic playmaker. Like, he creates opportunities. He's I think he was like 4th as far in the league year in expected assists. The reason why it was expected assists and not assists is because we are terrible at finishing. Last year, Minnesota United, our shot percentage was the lowest in the league.
Wow.
Our expected goals was like 9 higher than our actual goals. Like, we just could not complete our goal scoring opportunities, and it was across the board. Like, and we haven't had a striker really who kind of was able to fill that role to be that 15, 20 goals a season kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was and it was disappointing because we also brought in like last year midseason we brought in Adrian Hunu from Ligue 1 and he's like our top, he's our highest salaried player, striker, and although he's always been like more of a false nine than a straight up center forward, and so it was kind of hard for him to make that adjustment. And I mean, he hit 7 goals last year, but he had so many missed opportunities because Manu Reynoso created so many opportunities that was disappointing. So this offseason, they brought in, we just call him Bongi. He's a 22-year-old from South Africa. He's has a lot of potential to come in. We just announced this weekend that Minnesota United is bringing in Luis Amaria, who he actually was on loan to Minnesota in 2020. Started off the season great. Like in the first 2 matches of the season, scored 2 goals. Was looking really good. COVID hit, shut everything down. MLS Backers tournament came in, got injured his ankle during that tournament, kind of came back, kind of didn't. Really injured his ankle then again in September and was out for the rest of the season and just left after that loan period. And so we didn't have him last year. We tried to get him back, didn't have him. And we just brought him back now. And so now we have 2 very solid forwards and strikers, which is amazing because the last couple of seasons we've just brought in like 30-something-year-old journeyman like strikers thinking they could do something, and it just hasn't worked out. And so it's nice to go a little bit younger, bring them in, and hopefully that will be the thing that will change it over so that we don't have the, like I said, it hurt going from, going from being 10 minutes away from the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
To then starting the next season, losing your first 4 matches in a row and then digging yourself out of that hole all last season was painful and hard. It's why we ended up where we did. And ideally, hopefully we're in a better position where we can, get a little bit better start. Granted, we're playing Philadelphia, who is, one of the best teams in MLS. So,
thank you.
And should have been in the MLS Cup Finals if it wasn't for COVID. So there's that tricky part.
Yeah, man.
It's not an easy place to start your season. So.
I was gonna say, I mean, I completely feel how with what you're talking about, because we literally, if it wasn't for COVID, who knows what would have happened, right? And unfortunately, we're going into this season with the kind of sour taste and hoping we can definitely get back there. But when I look at this Minnesota team, obviously, I think the one thing that I really see is Adrian Heath has been the main consistent factor there. Been there since the start of the MLS days here for Minnesota United here. And now, like you said, he's got a little bit more depth to play with here for this upcoming season. I mean, what is the ceiling here for Adrian Heath? I guess I should ask here with Minnesota United.
I mean, it's up to Adrian Heath. Adrian Heath has been the success he's had at Minnesota has been great. But there's just certain times where you're just baffled by some of his decisions, like whether it's to not use subs and just to run guys like into the ground like day in and day out, and then why it's getting injured in training during the season. Like it's there's just some things that like I don't understand. Or example like this preseason, Adrian Heath is notorious for his starting 11 in preseason will play the first 45 minutes, the first half. And then he'll do a wholesale change and put in a new 11 for the second half. And that starting 11 is always the starting 11 they start the season with. And this year it's been Abu Danladi, like the guy who was released from Nashville last year and brought back to us on and when we have all the striker depth. So there's some things where it's up to him. He can be super consistent. Like when his 4-2-3-1 with Emmanuel Reynoso leading it is working, it's working. But then there's just times where you're like scratching your head, like, what is he doing? And it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing. I just really hope he can sort it out because we have the talent and the depth this year to make a good run. If everything hits, if these strikers are actually working this year, we have an opportunity to be one of the better teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah. It's interesting because Union fans, listen, majority of this fan base loves Jim Curtin, and obviously MLS Manager of the Year, granted. But there are times where you're wondering, why aren't you subbing guys in? Why aren't you putting certain guys? Obviously, we created a really good homegrown system here. We have a lot of good homegrowns here, and we do have the same gripes with Jim Curtin. But I guess that's what it takes to win. I don't know, because you guys made a Western Conference Finals the last couple of years. We made one last year, so I guess that is kind of the narrative there. Mark, wanted to ask you as well. We got done recording a little earlier, and when we were talking about Minnesota. We did bring up Ozzie Alonso. That to me, he is such a great veteran presence, whether it was for Minnesota, for Seattle. How do you see that kind of being replaced as far as that main voice within the dressing room?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, especially like if you look at who we lost this year. I mean, all in all, I was happy with the moves because we desperately needed to get our roster younger. Like Ozzy Alonso was not young, and we lost. And Ethan Finley too. Like, I mean, he's like 32. Like, we lost him. He's not young. And like the thing is, like him, like between Ozzy and Ethan Finley, they were the veterans. Like, they've been around for decades. Like, they have that experience to lead the. And thankfully, we still have guys. We still have, like, Will Trapp, Captain Will Trapp. He'll be our captain. We still have him. So I think there's not going to be a vacuum in that. We still have Michael Boxall, who is like, he's been with the team since 2017. Like, he's our rock in the center back position. So we'll still have that veteran presence. But yeah, it's going to be tough to miss. Like I said, like it'll be nice to get some younger players in that midfield to replace, especially Ozzy Alonso and Jan Gregus, because now you have Husani Dotson will finally have an opportunity to like own that number 8 spot and be our starting number 8. And then we also just signed, some new players also in the midfield. So like, yeah, we're bringing in some young guys. We have 2 young Hondurans who are holding midfielders. So we'll see what happens. And the nice thing is that we still have like some depth in the midfield. It's just that depth got younger. And so that can only get better for us.
Absolutely. It's always exciting to get young for sure. Mark, do you remember our last matchup, close to the end of last year?
I do. And I remember afterwards, like seeing all like the Philly folks be like, "Oh man, that was like one of our worst games of the season." And I was like, "Well, I'm glad it came against us because we snuck out a win against you guys, so that was great." So
yeah. I remember. So you guys did a great job of creating some turnovers. You forced Olivier Bizo and then Brujo Martinez into some costly turnovers, which turned into some goals for you guys. But to me, the Minnesota match last year was the coming out party for Daniel Gazdak. He scored 2 goals in that game. I think one was a PK, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check. He scored a free kick goal as well. But that was really the coming out party for Gazdak. There was a fan base that were still like 50-50 split on the guy. And I think that there's a lot of expectations for him as well. I mean, listen, it's going to be tough for you guys if you can't create those turnovers. I mean, you guys got pretty lucky on that one. Anything you guys can duplicate here on this upcoming Saturday?
No, and that's it's funny they say like the only thing I can think of is that like trying to like just high press the crap out of you is the only our only option, and that would be one of the only reasons why I think starting Abu Danladi at striker on Saturday would be a viable option, is because the dude is fastest. He's super fast, and he's so much energy and just a motor on him that never quits. So like he can be a total pass. Like I mean, it's funny that like our striker needs to be like more of our defensive person than our our actual goal scoring stuff. But like if we can keep the ball, like keep pressuring you and do as much as we can to keep the ball in your half, even if we don't have possession of it, and just kind of force you to work it around the back. That's ideal for us. And then maybe we can break on the counter and then just, I mean, honestly, like get a goal, see what happens, and just go from there.
What is the predicted starting lineup for Minnesota in game 1?
I mean, it's pretty much, it's going to be the exact, pretty much the exact same as last year, except for maybe that striker. Like it's going to be, Tyler Miller in goal. It's going to be Debasi and Boxall at center forward. It's going to be Chase Gasper and Metnair on the fullback. Will Trapp and Hassani Dotson will probably be the holding midfield. You'll have Emmanuel Reynoso in the middle, Robin Lute on the right, Frank Fragapani on the left, and then who knows on striker? It might be Abu Danladi, it might be Luis Amaria, or it might be Adrian Unu. Who knows? Like, yeah, that I don't know. Or I mean, maybe they'll put in Bongi. I don't know. Maybe this like this our 22-year-old South African that we just got in, which is actually he's also brought the most life to like the fan base this offseason, just because once they announced his signing, suddenly every single post on Minnesota United's Facebook page gets thousands of South African comments.
There you go.
Like coming from South Africa, they're like, and they're hilarious and awesome, and they're passionate, and they love this guy. And they're like, he's like, he's the GOAT. Messi's mad that they don't call him Bongi, and like it's just so great. Like the comments are hilarious. Like just brought tons of life like to the
That's
offseason
awesome.
where it's like, yeah, he's been great. So like that alone has just been fantastic.
Yeah, we had something similar with Mikael Ode, our DP signing, coming from Brøndby over in Denmark. Some great interactions with those guys. They really love him, and they're excited to watch him play. They're like, we now have a new fan base in Denmark. They're all Philadelphia Union fans now because of it. So it's beautiful to see. That's why this is such a beautiful game, because of the connection. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, what language you speak. You speak soccer, right? So that's definitely the great part about that.
Totally.
All right. So your prediction for Saturday, what do you see happening between Minnesota and Philly in Chester, Pennsylvania?
I'm trying to think. I'd like to be optimistic, but I don't see us coming away with any points off of this one.
Anything can happen, man. It's game one.
Anything can happen. I know it's true. You guys are solid. Like I expect you guys to be vying for Eastern Conference, top of the East. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. Like it's a tough matchup. It's a tough way to start the season. It's if we can kind of like contain you guys and keep, like I said, keep the ball in your half of the field as much as possible, whether that's on our high press, whether that's with our having possession or not. If that's what we can do, that's be great. And like, again, get a counter, and we have some quick guys and we can counter quickly. And if we can sneak a goal in, that could change everything. And we could kind of, see how well we can bunker and counter and just keep going that way. But it's going to be a tough match. It's going to be a fun match though.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can we stay sharp, because if not, Minnesota will definitely capitalize on that. Last question for you: where do you see Minnesota finishing this year in the Western Conference and the MLS in general?
Oh, it's tough because, like, again, it's all going to depend on like whether all of our striker signings hit. So if they hit, we could be top, in the top 3 in the West. If they don't hit, the Western Conference is going to be really tough. If you look at who made the playoffs last year, we were the 5th seed in the playoffs, but suddenly, does anyone think that both LA teams aren't going to make the playoffs again this year? Probably not. And then you also have Nashville coming, who's one of the top teams in the East, coming into the West now. So like,
thank you for that, by the way, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. So like, suddenly you have like 3 teams who should make the playoffs, and then so who's not? Like, is it going to be Vancouver? Is it going to be Real Salt Lake? Is it going to be us? Is Colorado going to have a drop off? Is, Seattle's always solid. They're probably going to be in there. Portland's looking very solid. They're going to be in there. SKC is very solid. They're probably going to be in there. So who's going to drop out? It's going to be very tough. Like, honestly, like the end of the last season was very exciting because everybody was like, the difference between, 4th and 9th was like 2 points. And it's going to be the exact same thing again this year. It's going to be nuts, and it'll be very exciting and kind of awesome.
A question for me personally, as a guy who loves this league: do you guys have a derby yet? Do you guys have like a main fierce rival?
See, that's another thing. We kind of like they've tried to make it be SKC, because whatever, they're Kansas City, we're kind of close. It would actually be great if I was actually really hoping that instead of Nashville coming to the Western Conference, Chicago would.
We all said the same thing
because Chicago's rival was always Columbus, but now they have Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and so send them to us, because like in every other sport, like whether it's if it's like Twins hate the White Sox, honestly, like going back in the day, the North Stars hated the Blackhawks. Like that was just like a nonstop fight every time they would play each other. And like the same with like, so just send them our way. And like the Wild hate the Blackhawks now, and like we don't like Chicago that much. Send them our way. And like they don't have a rival anyways, especially with St. Louis entering the mix. St. Louis and Kansas City are going to winners.
Yeah,
they're basically the same state, except for they're separated by a river because they're not quite in Missouri. But I wish they would have sent us Chicago. It would have been way more fun, because even when we do, and now because they're in the Eastern Conference, we only get to play them every other year, and so it's
true,
and so it's not awesome, and it's too bad. But thankfully, I'm pretty sure we play Chicago this year, so at least we get to play them at least this year. But yeah, it would be great if we actually had like a rivalry going with Chicago.
It didn't make sense to me moving Nashville to the west. Like
No.
geography wise, Chicago is more west than it is Nashville. I mean, but again, thank you because Nashville is a really good team, and we don't have to worry about them this year in the East.
And
But
they're in the
makes
East,
no
like,
sense.
they're in the Eastern time zone. Like it makes
Yeah.
no sense. Like, just from a timing standpoint of trying to figure out, like sending them over to play like in Vancouver makes
Yeah.
no sense. Sending them like 3 time zones away. Like I don't get it.
That's what makes our league that tough, man.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Mark. Really, seriously, thank you so much for hopping on in. Before we let you go, where can people find you and in the 55.1 podcast?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Mr. Fangmeyer, so you can check me out there.
Cool.
With all of my soccer and non-soccer rantings. And then yeah, weekly 55.1. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there, and you can check us out if you want to go in depth on Minnesota United or Minnesota Aurora FC.
Yes, make sure you guys check that out for both Minnesota United and Minnesota Aurora FC. Great work over there. Mark, seriously, thank you again, and best of luck to you guys on Saturday.
Yeah, you too, man. It's gonna be a fun match.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Fangmeyer, let's get it. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you again to Mark Fangmeyer. Some very interesting insight from Mr. Mark over at 55.1 podcast. Well, gentlemen, Mark gave us all the lowdown on Minnesota. I mentioned last year's match late in the season. God, it feels like we always score a free kick goal against those dudes. So I don't know what it is, even like Harris Medunjanin's free kick back in 2019 and last year's Daniel Gazak. But I'll be quite honest with you guys. If we play our game, I just don't see how we don't get 3 points on Saturday. I know it's early, like it's week 1, it's match 1, like it kind of feels weird saying that, but if we play our game, I just don't see how we don't get 3 points. We don't walk away with 3 points on Saturday afternoon at the Zoo. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I said it in my preview article, but you shut down Emmanuel Reynoso, that offense is stagnant. And as he said, they have a lot of question marks at striker, and even more so than we do. And the only reason we have questions is because Sergio and Ura are both out of the country. So I think, it's that really, like I said, it boils it down to, like with Nashville, shutting down Mukhtar. You shut down Reynoso, that's it. And as for who's going to be locking him down,
El Brujo, no?
It should be.
I think El Brujo or Leon. I think whoever is someone. If depending on, how far up, how far up the press is, it probably will be Brujo. And Brujo's done a pretty good job of putting people in his pocket, and tracking them around, and I just think that with everything going on, I think this will be an interesting test because he talked about the press. Well, the Union are a pressing team, and they also seem to be pretty good at playing the ball quick for a counterattack.
Yeah.
And you now have the players and the forwards.
They're fast now. They're fast. It's weird.
That well. So I honestly think, and I think there's a chance Carranza gets a goal on a counterattack.
Yeah.
Because if
That's gonna be fun, man.
He's got that. He's got enough pace in behind from what we've seen to make those runs and to get that finish. And if Olivier or Kai could put in a solid cross, it looks like he's going to get on the end of it. And I really think that if you are trying to press a team that likes to play a little faster, it was like when the Union, there's like they were, when they got burned against counterattacking teams in the past when they were possession. If you try to play fast and quick against a team that works well on the counter, you're going to have a lot of problems. And I just don't think the Minnesota defense has enough to lock down the especially on the road. I think if this were in Minnesota, I think that feel, and I've having gone to that stadium, that is an absolute home field advantage. That is a solid stadium. But at the Sub, like it's the reason why the Union in the past years have had a very solid home record.
Justin, I'm just glad I'm just glad we're not playing in negative 17 degrees.
At this point, I think it's like the fact
Criminal.
we're playing Minnesota in week 1 with like maybe 35
Yeah.
degrees. I feel like it's kind of symbolic.
That's in.
Pretty much. No, but I mean, even the last match, look, it was in Minnesota, but like I mentioned, like they essentially scored their goals off of 3 turnovers, and if that's why I'm saying, like, if you play your game, you play a clean game. I just don't see how we give that up, man. Tim, anything you're looking forward to in this match here against Minnesota, week 1, match
you know,
1?
It was for me. It was kind of hard to like think about how Minnesota has been doing in the preseason. So it's good to hear what Mark was saying and hearing him say that they want to press the Union. I don't know if you guys saw, but it brought a smile to my face because I just thought of all the juicy counterattacking options that I think the Union are going to have in this game. I think if they do try to press the Union and like if the Union is deep for some reason and they try to press there, like if you have guys like El Brujo and Bedoya and maybe even the Jack McGlynn on the field, like they're just going to have to play an outlet pass. And if we're, if we think that maybe the Union go with the Christmas tree just because Carranza seems to be one of the only healthy strikers right now, they could play it up to him or they could play it to Gajdag or I'm hoping Paxton Aronson and then he can run at the defense. So that possibility plays right into how the Union want to play anyways. And then, yeah, I'm with Justin. I think Carranza is going to score a goal in this game. And then if Minnesota keeps pressing, then I wouldn't put it past Gazdag to score as well. Like that, it could easily be a 2-0, cool as you like home win against a team from the West.
So are we all in agreement that Saturday will bring the Feliz Navidad out?
I think so. I think you'll probably see. So your back line is going to be the obvious quartet.
Ariel might start. We don't know.
No, I think
you're on the Ariel train.
I really am, dude. I think
I can't blame you. I love Nate, man. I love that kid.
I think realistically, it's Kai, Jack, Jakob, and Bizo. I think.
I agree.
In that midfield 3, I think I'm gonna have Leon, Ali, and Brujo. I think your 2 behind the striker. I think it's gonna be Gazdag and Paxton.
Let's go.
Should be.
I
mean, if Quinn's there, I wouldn't hate it. But
I wouldn't.
I think it should be Pax. I think it should be Pax.
Yeah, I would be okay with either because I think both of them bring that pace.
As long as Jim doesn't do something weird and put like Jack McGlynn at the 10.
Then, yeah. No, that's where. And then of course it's gonna be Carranza up top.
Julian Carranza. All right. Well, so to Zach's point, real quick, I want to ask you guys because I think I really do think that is a legitimate discussion here. How long of a leash does Olivier have this season?
Not long.
It's not long.
Not long at all. I think it's like 2 strikes and he's out. I don't even think he gets to 3. At least until Harry will make some blunders as well. But there's just so many times you can point to last season where we lost points or conceded goals because Bizo didn't track a run. We
could be seeing Nate by San Jose.
Week 3, maybe.
I think unless he's won them over in preseason, which I mean, who's to say? He's been there a lot longer than Bizo has because Bizo was at AFCON, but I would say by week 5 I would expect to see Harriel.
Wow.
I know. I mean, Jim Curtin picks his teams based on performances in the week of trading. So, and I mean, he takes into account what they do in the games, obviously. So, if Bizo has a howler, he might start the week of training with Harriel in with the starters. And then if he takes that and runs with it, then I think we could see what Zach's talking about in 2, 3, 4 weeks. If something happens in the first few games and, there's a goal that goes in and the blame is on Bizo, then I think Harriel will get his shot, and it's if he will take it or not. I mean, we saw him in the Eastern Conference Final, and he looked like he was ready.
And he was playing left back as a right-footed player.
And he almost
right-footed player, dude.
Got that goal too.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he header, man. He got up. He got up on that.
Yeah.
That was tough. Justin, I also liked how you didn't even mention Andre Blake. We all know who's going to start in goal.
Yeah, no, there's no
Yeah.
way.
Listen, as
Are
I
you
said,
sure Matt Freese
you
didn't
right.
have the best preseason of all time?
You write in that name with a goddamn permanent
I think
marker.
you chisel it into the statue outside the stadium of him.
Yeah, literally, just at this point, you're gonna carve. They're gonna take a jackhammer to the concrete behind the net and just go Andre Blake.
Andre
Just
Blake, man.
permanent spot behind the net.
I agree.
Come on.
So we all agree I think the line is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it is the Union as well. They usually are, but I think that this one it'll definitely be pretty self-explanatory. I'm curious what Jim does as far. I'm more interested in the what he brings in the second half as far as
I want to see
go.
how many minutes Bueno gets. Will be super interesting for me.
Yeah,
I think it's always a what's the score line and
what has Brujo done in the first?
Yeah, I think it's always like the score line and who's on a yellow and who there's a few if they're up 2-0 at the 60th minute, Jim's gonna wait a little bit to make it so but if it's like a 1-1 game or nothing 60th
Jack
minute,
McGlynn comes in for Flock for sure.
I see the Union. I mean, this is what my ideal situation. I think in this game you would start McGlynn on the left side of the midfield, and that way when Brujo does do something in the second half, assuming you're already up a goal, you can bring on Flock and Bueno and just lock down the midfield.
Yeah, that's
what
fair.
I would love to see. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Flock's going to start on that left side, like Justin said. But I would love to see McGlynn get some starting minutes, especially if Minnesota's going to press, because then McGlynn can.
Hell yeah!
All he needs is one pass. He's that smart. He sees the field. He just needs one outlet pass. So.
And I think to your point as well, Tim. You mentioned how Jim, he always predicates his lineups on practice the week prior.
Yeah.
I mean, Quinn Sullivan has been. You've heard the raving reviews all throughout preseason.
Yeah.
I would love to see him getting on the pitch. And again, everyone's saying he's a shuttle. I really don't think we have a defined position for Quinn Sullivan. And I hope we can find that out this season. But I'm really excited to see what Quinn can do, man.
I think he can be that second striker, that 10 or the 8, and be fine. And I think, maybe he does come into a more defined role this year. But I think the fact that he can play those 3 positions, as long as he's showing well in practice, he'll come on the field almost every game because he can play 3 positions.
Tim,
all I'm hearing is he's Kevin De Bruyne. That's what I just heard from you. That's basically what I heard.
Tim, can we start calling him the Chester Army knife?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I mean, apparently his younger brother is even better than him. So
so it's another Brendan Paxton situation.
Dude, we have a bunch of siblings in this system, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think we got a few more years to wait for him, but
we got a flaming hot take.
That might be the boldest prediction I've ever seen.
He might not even go 10 games without one.
That's more bold. That's more bold.
This is scorching.
Than the Josie Altidore take from Joe. Because I'm gonna consider accumulated yellows a red card too. So I don't even think it's possible for him to make it a whole season without that's.
For those who are listening or not watching, Doopsburg, shouts out to Doopsburg. He goes, bold prediction, El Brujo goes this season without a red card. So.
You know what? He might be right because Brujo might leave in the summer. And then
there you go.
So maybe he's right. Maybe he's right.
There you go. All right, gentlemen. It's the best part of these previews. Prediction time. So let's start off with Tim. Tim, Saturday afternoon, 1:00, chilly afternoon, Chester soccer. What do you see happening between?
It's a 2-0 win for the Union. Like I was saying before, especially if Minnesota is actually going to come out and try to press, which I don't think is the smartest thing they could do in their first game on the road. I think they'd be smart to sit back and try to counter rather than press. But if they do that, then it's going to leave opportunities for the Union to counter, and whether it be Gazdag on the ball or possibly Paxton Aronson or Bedoya running down the right flank, there's going to be opportunities to get goals. And I think Carranza is going to show why the Union made this loan happen, because he is that level of striker that the Union couldn't buy straight out. So yeah, he's going to score. I think Carranza will get a goal, and then Gazdag will get one too because there's
Goal
going
and
to
an assist for Gazdag. Start the season off strong.
Yeah, let's do it. MVP.
Yep, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Zach, prediction?
3-1. There's
Wow.
typically a lot of goals when the Union play Montreal. I think it's almost always
Montreal.
at least. I mean, yeah, my mind's on
This
Montreal.
kid has got
My-
Montreal on
My
his
mind's on
mind.
Montreal. I'm sorry. Hey, they both start with M. It's not my
Mercier.
fault. When they play Minnesota, I think like the last 3 seasons, there's been at least 5 goals that that there's been scored. So I'm gonna drop a little bit down. We'll go 3-1. I agree. I think Gazdag gets a goal and an assist. I think Carranza scores. Probably like Glesnes scores a header or something too. But yeah, and I mean, I just think early on in the season, defensively, like it can be a little shaky until the shape and the press and everything starts to get worked out a little bit better. So I think that's where the Union concede that 1 goal. But I think 3-1.
Okay. What about you, Justin?
I initially had in my prediction 2-1, and I think it's just because that's my go-to score line because it seems to be the Union can average 2 goals like that. That's usually a roundabout number. But thinking about this game, I think the Union always starts strong. I think I'm gonna go with Zach. I think I'm gonna go 3-1. And I think like I said, I think Carranza gets a goal. I think Gazdag has at least maybe a goal and an assist. I think he's gonna have a real statement game, and it'll throw a little lighter fluid onto Zach's Gazdag for MVP talks.
If he wins MVP, by the way, if he does, it's like I get the credit for saying that he's going to win the MVP. Just in the Union community, I get the credit.
I easily would. I would absolutely.
I am conductor of the train.
There you go. There you go. It'll be a fun one on Saturday. I'm excited. It's the start of another season. Obviously, it was a short off season, but I hope you guys all enjoy the match out there. Make sure you guys stay safe. Make sure you guys stay warm as well. That's going to do it for this first match preview for the Philadelphia Union season. Thank you so much for joining on in, guys. Make sure before we sign off, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe. We always broadcast these lives through here on El Parcero Phillies YouTube channel, so make sure you guys subscribe for the further episodes in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin Don Allocation Running Friedberg. That is Zach Labasso. That is Tim Lamaguth. Of course, I am El Parcero Philly. We're telling you guys to DOOP on. Let's be Minnesota!